The Thursday game. The Lions beat the Cowboys 44-30 to move to 8-5. Dallas is 6-6-1. Prescott 376 yards, a TD, 2 picks. He's sacked 5 times. Javonte Williams has 67 yards rushing and a TD. CeeDee Lamb has 6 catches for 126 yards. Flournoy has 9 catches, 115 yards and a TD. Jake Ferguson loses a fumble. They get a sack from Houston. Their kicker's 5 of 5 on his field goals with a long of 63. And he hits his extra point. Another 60-yarder. I know you guys told me about the K balls or whatever that they're like, or specifically for the way they're kind of fucking with them or whatever for these long kicks, which is so weird. Which is kind of strange to me because it's almost like these kickers are using these balls on the long field goals and they're hitting them. But I feel like the kickers are missing extra points at an alarming rate. And what is the extra point now? It's like, how long is it? Is it almost like 30 yards now? I forget what they moved it to. It's like funny. It's like they can't even kick with the normal balls now. It's weird. Jared Goff, 309 yards, TD, no picks. He sacked him 1 time. Montgomery, 6 carries, 60 yards and a TD. Gibbs has 43 yards rushing and 3 TDs. Williams has 7 catches for 96 yards. Tesla, was that Tesla? Has the receiving touchdown. They get a sack from Campbell. 3 cacks. What the fuck's a cack? 3 sacks from Muhammad. A sack from McNeil. Picks from Barnes and DJ Reed. Their kicker is 3 of 4 in his field goals, and he hits all 5 of his extra points. What the hell? That's annoying. They usually have the scores run across the top. But for some reason there it had just that score, and then it went to next week's scores, which obviously have not happened yet. Yeah, that's fucking weird and also annoying. How do I fucking change that? That means I'm gonna have to go back and forth now. Seahawks beat the Falcons. These are Sunday games now. 37-9 to move to 10-3. Atlanta's 4-9. Darnold, 3 touchdowns, a pick. He sacked twice, 249 yards. They run for 129 yards as a team. Charbonnet has 46 to lead the way. Jackson Smith has 7 catches for 92 yards and 2 TDs. Cooper Kupp has a receiving touchdown. They get a sack from Emanwari. And that's it. They get picks from Witherspoon, and also Emanwari has a pick as well. Their kicker's 3 for 3 in his field goals, 4-4 in his extra points. Kirk Cousins, 162 yards, no TDs, 2 picks. He sacked him 1 time. Robinson, 86 yards rushing. Pitts Sr., 90 yards receiving on 6 catches. Robinson loses a fumble. They get sacks from Street and Pierce Jr. A pick from Hughes. And their kicker's 3 of 4 in his field goals, no extra points. I don't know why it's doing that. That's really annoying. That means I have to go back like every time now, because usually the other times it would show you all the scores are at the top. I go to the next one. For some reason, it's just going to week 15 now. Bills beat the Bengals 39-34 to move to 9-4. Bengals are 4-9. The Bengals were kind of dominating this game, and then they took a dump. Burrow, 4 TDs, 2 picks. He sacked once, 284 yards. 62 yards rushing as a team. Brown has a rushing touchdown. T. Higgins, 6 catches, 92 yards, 2 TDs. Number 88, Gasecki, maybe. 86 receiving yards and a TD. Chase Brown has a receiving TD as well. They get sacks from Stone, a sack from Slayton Jr., a sack from Hill. Their kicker hits all his extra points. That means Josh Allen, 3 TDs, no picks. He sacked 3 times, 251 yards. Cook has 80 yards rushing. Allen adds 78 yards rushing and a TD. Knox, 93 yards receiving. Kincaid has a receiving TD. Shakir has one. And Ty Johnson. No, wait, sorry. Jackson always has one. Cook, the third, fumbles twice and loses one. They get a sack from Benford. They get a pick return touchdown from Benford as well. And another pick from, that was a 63-yard pick for TD. And Apenza has another pick. Their kicker hits everything. Bills trying to stay in that division. They're still 2 games behind the Patriots here. The Titans beat the Browns 31-29 for their second win of the year. 2-11. Cleveland is now 3-10. Cam Ward 117 yards, 2 TDs and a pick. Pollard 161 yards rushing and 2 TDs. Dyke has a receiving touchdown. Io Manor has a receiving touchdown. A sack and a half for Simmons. A half a sack for Harrell. They get a pick from Xavier Woods. Their kicker hits everything. Field goals and extra points. Sanders 364, 3 TDs and a pick. So nice game for him. He sacked twice. He also rushes for a TD and has 29 yards rushing to lead the way. Fannin Jr. 114 yards on 8 catches for a TD. Jerry Jeudy has a receiving TD. And somebody told me to say his name. Njoku, is that how you say it? Somebody said in that thing. It's another one I can't think. He had a catch for a yard and a touchdown. Sampson loses a fumble. Myles Garrett has another sack. That puts him at 20. Devin Bush has a pick for 44 yards. Their kicker hits everything. He's got 20 with 4 games left, but if you want him to kind of beat it in 16, he's got 3 games to get 3 picks. Vikings beat the Commanders 31-0. Jaden Daniels got hurt again, I believe, so he came back and got hurt again. Just put him on he's done. Your season's over. It's been over. Just get the high pick and come back stronger next year. They're 3-10. Minnesota's 5-8. So Daniels was 78 yards, no TDs and a pick. He was sacked once before leaving. Then Mariota comes in 30 yards, no TDs and a pick. He's also sacked once. Rodriguez 52 yards rushing to lead the way. McLaurin 41 yards receiving to lead the way. Mariota loses a fumble. They get a sack from Wagner, a sack from Von Miller. Harris and Payne also have sacks. They don't do much of anything. Obviously, their kicker didn't even attempt a field goal. McCarthy, 163 yards for Minnesota, 3 TDs, no picks. He sacked 4 times. They run the ball for 162 yards as a team. Jones Sr., 76. Mason has a rushing touchdown. Addison, 62 yards receiving to lead the way. Oliver has 2 receiving touchdowns. Hawkinson has a receiving touchdown. Sacks from Redmond, Wilson, and Wilson. Van Ginkel has a pick for 40 yards, and Smith has a pick for 11. Their kicker hits everything. Yeah, Washington has to like this, Daniel, I don't know what his injury was this time, but even if it's not bad, I would just sit him out the rest of the fucking year. There's no point. Dolphins beat up on the Jets 34-10 to move it to 6-7. Jets are 3-10. Miami trying to make a push here for the playoffs. 227 yards, a TD, no picks. He sacked once. Wright 177 yards rushing and a TD. Achane has 92 yards rushing, only on 7 carries. Did he get hurt, or did they just take him out? And a TD. Gordon II has a TD. They run for 239 yards as a team. Waddle 50 yards receiving and a TD. 2.5 sacks from Seiler. A sack from Gay Jr. and a sack from number 9. Half sack from Chubb, the former Bronco, Bradley Chubb. Chop Robinson, hell of a name right there. Also a sack. They get picks from Dotson, Bonner, and Douglas. Their kicker hits everything as a long field goal is 53. Brady Cook for the Jets. I don't know who this is. 163 yards, no TDs, 2 picks. He sacked 6 times. Tyrod Taylor's 1 of 4 for 6 yards and a TD. No TDs and a pick. I don't know if he got hurt or something real quick, or they just were like, "No, you're done." It's so bad early on. Brees Hall, 43 yards rushing to lead the way. Mason Taylor, 51 yards receiving to lead the way. A sack from Williams. And their kicker hit his extra point and his field goal. Just a typical season for the Jets recently. I'm one of those people that doesn't necessarily hate the Jets. I did for a while. And the Giants as well. I just didn't like either of them. And being in New York then, I just didn't like either of them. Like when I was like, started to watch football when I was young. I'm like, I don't like these teams. And the Giants were good. The Jets had some alright years in the 80s, and then they had some alright years in the 90s as well. But obviously the Giants had a lot more success. But both teams annoyed me, and the Jets, neither of them annoy me now. I feel bad for the Jets, though. A little upset here. That definitely is upset. Saints beat the Bucks 24-20 to move to 3-10. Saints are 6-7-6. Tyler Shuck, 144 yards, no TDs and a pick. He sacked 3 times. Neal has 70 yards rushing and a TD. Shuck has 55 yards rushing and 2 TDs. Well, the former Bronco, Valley, 3 yards, 40 yards receiving to lead the way. I liked him. He was a late pick, too. They traded him, though. I don't know why. Taylor with a pick. See, I know you guys say you don't hear the flitter box, but it bothers me so. The noise is so fucking annoying. It just distracts me so badly. And she just goes on and on. And then you go in there and won't be covered. Jaguars beat up on the Colts 36-19. I think Daniel Jones is gone for the year with a torn Achilles or something related to his Achilles. I don't know if he tore it. At the time, he had 60 yards, no TDs, and a pick. Leonard had 145 yards. Passing, no TDs, and a pick. They signed Phillip Rivers. 44-year-old Phillip Rivers got a tryout, and I think they signed him. Wasn't he? That was the last team he was on, wasn't it? They went to the playoffs with him, didn't they? They played the Bills. Taylor, 74 yards rushing to TD. Leonard has a rushing TD. 80 yards receiving for Pierce to lead the way. Taylor loses a fumble. No sacks. Their kicker hits everything. So they were like 7-1, I believe, and now they're 8-5. The Jags are a quiet 9-4. You don't even hear about them, and they're 9-4. You're like, oh shit, they're 9-4. So they're doing something right this year. Lawrence, 244 yards. 2 TDs, no picks. He's not sacked. Etienne Jr., 74 yards rushing, 2 TDs. Thomas Jr., 87 yards receiving. Tim Patrick, another former Bronco. He went to the Lions. I don't know if he was traded or he just signed him. He has 78 yards receiving and a TD. Myers has a receiving TD. Tootin fumbles twice and loses 1. Sack from Hines Allen. Picks from Lloyd and Newsom II. Their kicker hits everything with a long field goal of 48. Denver plays Jacksonville in Denver in 2 weeks. They got to play the Packers this week. So they have a rough schedule the rest of the year. They have those 2 teams, and then they have the Chiefs, who kind of fallen off, but it's in KC, so I would not be surprised if Denver lose that. And they got to play the Chargers in Denver. So 3 of the 4 games are at home, which is good because they're playing great at home. If I had to guess, I think Denver splits the 4, 2-2, and they end up 13-4. But you never know; they could lose all 4. The way they're playing, the way their season's going, and how close all the games are, they could lose all 4 close. They could win all 4 close. Steelers beat the Ravens 27-22 to move to 7-6. The Ravens are 6-7. Rodgers 284, touchdown, no picks. He's not sacked. They run the ball 17 times for 34 yards. Rodgers has a rushing TD, and so does Gainwell. DK Metcalf, 7 catches, 148 yards. Warren has the receiving TD. Highsmith has a sack. Pierre has a pick. Their kicker hits everything. And this is a battle for the division lead. Jackson, 219, a TD, a pick. He sacked twice. Henry, 94 yards rushing. Lamar Jackson has a rushing TD. Flowers, 8 catches, 124 yards receiving. Likely has a receiving TD. No sacks. Their kicker, their kicker misses an extra point. That's going to be a tight division till the end, though, anyway. Broncos beat the Raiders 24-17. People who are, of course, everybody's thinking everything's rigged, and sometimes it looks like it is. Denver was up 24-14, I believe, at the end of the game. Somebody on Denver got a delay of game penalty because they landed on the receiver for the Raiders at the end, literally the end of the game, and laid on him for a second or some shit. So they got a delay of game, and there was 4 seconds left, and the Raiders just kicked the field goal to get to 7. I think the spread had settled at 8.5 or something. I don't know for sure about that. But everybody's like, why they get? They're like, well, they could have kicked it and then got the. But I think time just expired when they kicked the field goal. There was no kickoff there. The game was over. They weren't going to get a kickoff. Hopefully, grab the onside kick and throw a Hail Mary. You do that with 10 seconds left, maybe. I think the game just was over after he hit the field goal. Denver is 11-2. The Raiders are 2-11. Denver, of course, couldn't just blow them out because they can't blow anybody out. That's going to be their undoing in the playoffs. I think they're gonna in the playoffs. This is a Broncos fan. I could see if they gotta make it first, right? They could lose the next 4. If they get in the playoffs, they're gonna most likely have a home game, and I could see them losing a close home game, 23-20, because they just don't do enough offensively. Knicks 212, a TD, no picks. He sacked 3 times. Harvey's 475 yards rushing. He had a nice little game, and a TD. Bo Nix did rush for a TD. Sutton 62 yards receiving to lead the way. He did hit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 11 different guys caught passes. 2 sacks from Benito, a sack from Roach, and a sack from Franklin Myers. Mims did have a 48-yard punt return for a touchdown. Mims Jr. Lutz hits everything. Geno Smith, a TD, no picks, sacked 3 times for 16 yards. He ended up getting concussed, I think. Pickett comes in 97 yards and a TD. They were on the ball for 40 yards as a team on 14 carries. Beck, 50 yards receiving. Bowers, the tight end, had a receiving touchdown. Denver historically cannot cover tight ends. It's weird. No matter who's on their defense, they never have safeties or linebackers that can cover tight ends well enough. The last time they did is when they would have Champ Bailey. Their corner would have to cover the team's best tight ends. I remember having to cover Tony Gonzalez and shit because nobody else could. That was the last time they had to use their corner to do it. Typically, you have linebackers and safeties kind of focusing on tight ends. A lot of corners do too, but they can't cover tight ends. It's weird. Jackson also has a receiving TD. Chin has a sack. Crosby has a sack. Hemingway has a sack. Their kicker hits everything. The Raiders have been, they made the playoffs, I think, the one time. They won the division randomly with Derek Carr. They were 12-4. But since they went to that Super Bowl against the Bucs, they have not done anything. And the Raiders are typically they're a very known franchise in just across sports in terms of popularity. But they're typically a good franchise up until really that Super Bowl. They didn't. I'm trying to think what they did in the 90s. They made the playoffs 3 or 4 times in the 90s, I feel. But after that Super Bowl, they just became garbage. It was weird. Packers beat the Bears 28-21. 9-3-1 for the Packers, 9-4 for the Bears. Caleb Williams, 186 yards, 2 TDs and a pick. He sacked once. Swift, 63 yards rushing to lead the way. Burden, the third, 67 yards receiving to lead the way. Loveland has a receiving TD, and number 14 has a receiving TD. I don't know how to say that name. A sack from Sweat. Gardner Johnson, a pick for 28 yards. Their kicker hits everything. That was a division battle for the division lead as well. Love, 234, 3 TDs and a pick. He sacked one time. Jacobs, 86 yards rushing and a TD. Watson, 89 yards receiving and 2 TDs. Melton has a receiving TD as well. Sack from number 55. I don't know how to to say that name either. A pick from Nixon. The kicker's 4-4 and his extra points. McManus. Of course, like the Bears were ripping it up, and then they lose a tight game to the divisional rival. And all of a sudden, everybody's like, they're done. It's like, I can't with sports. And I'm seeing it in the Premier League. Of course, I would, because it's sports in general. But across the board, no matter where it's being played in the world. Like Aston Villa started off 0-3-2, right? And everybody's like, they suck, the coach needs to be fired, they're garbage, players need to be gone, all this other shit. They start ripping it up, it's great. The second they lost to Liverpool, and it came out again. They're fucked, they're done, and then they roll off another bunch in a row. And it's like, they're contenders for the title. They're scary and a threat. 4 weeks ago they sucked, 3 weeks ago they were incredible. That's why sports are annoying. The fans, us as fans, make sports suck. Really. Because of shit like that. It's like, no, they're not done. The Bears aren't done. They're 9-4. They're 9-4. They lost a tight game to a good team. I think it was on the road, too. Like, come on now. Stop with that shit. It's so... I hate sports. The Rams beat up on the Cardinals 45-17. Rams are 10-3. Cardinals are 3-10. Stafford he's MVP right now. 3 TDs, no picks. He's not sacked, 281 yards. They run the ball for 249 yards. Corum, 128 yards, 2 TDs. Williams, 84 yards and a TD. Puka, 7 catches, 167 yards, 2 TDs. Parkinson has a TD as well, receiving. They get sacks from Curl, Young, Turner. Landman has a pick. Their kicker hits all his extra points and has 1 field goal. Brissett, 2 TDs, a pick for the Cardinals. He sacked 3 times, 271 yards. They run the ball for 51 yards a team. Michael Wilson, though, 11 catches, 142 yards, 2 TDs. Nice game for him. Receiving. No sacks. Their kicker misses a field goal. Did I do or was that a later game? Did I miss oh no, who had buys? Okay, the Panthers had a bye. I'm trying to think if I missed teams. Texans beat the Chiefs in KC 20-10. They're playing better now too. The Texans are 8-5. The Chiefs are 6-7. Stroud 203 yards, a TD, no picks. He sacked 3 times. Mark 68 yards, rushing, no TDs. Number 33 has a rushing TD. I can't even. Ogumbawale. Collins 4 catches, 121 yards. Woody Marks has a receiving TD. A sack from number 72, a half sack from Rankins, and a half sack from Autry. They get picks from Petrie, Lassiter, and Al-Shahir. Their kicker hits everything. They have a great defense. They have the best defense in the league, I believe, statistically, and scoring. Patrick Mahomes, not a good game for him. Probably his worst game in a long time, I would think. 160 yards, no TDs, 3 picks. He sacked twice. He does rush for 59 yards to lead the way. Hunt has a rushing touchdown. Worthy, 55 yards receiving. They get a sack from Karlaftis, a sack from Jones, a half sack from Galote, half sack from Tillery. The kicker misses a field goal. They have to play the Broncos and out of the 4 games, they have 2 softies in the Titans and the Raiders. And then you have the Chargers and the Broncos they got to play, but they're both in Kansas City. But they're vulnerable. Obviously, they're 6-7. If I had to guess, they're going to probably go about 9-8. They're going to probably lose 1 more game. 9-8, I don't think is going to be good enough to get in the playoffs. And here's the thing. This is me as being realistic, right? I'm not going to get on the Chiefs hate. I don't care. It was the same way when the Patriots were ripping it up and winning Super Bowls. They were the team that was hated, and they cheated, and everything, right? They kind of did cheat, actually, with the filming and stuff. Although I think it was illegal. But all that, whatever. We're just saying shit. I never cared. That was mainly because Denver usually beat the Patriots, especially in the playoffs. So I didn't give a shit. Denver hadn't beat the Chiefs for 1,000 times in a row until they legitimately beat them this year, a couple weeks ago. But real quickly, it's like this is an interesting game because Chargers playing the Chiefs. Part of me's like, I want the Chargers to lose so Denver can wrap up this division. Because the Chiefs can't win the division. Even if they get into the playoffs, they can't win the division. Because Denver can't lose more than 6 games. I know the Chargers could at this point, but then part of me's like, no, I want the Chiefs to lose because here's what's going to happen. If the Chiefs get into the playoffs, they will win the tight games. I'm not saying they'll even go to the Super Bowl, but realistically, they'll win that first playoff game. Experience. Like all of a sudden they play Denver. They play the Patriots. The experience is going to be too much for those other teams to overcome. And that's not to say either one of those teams is going to beat the Chiefs, but I would prefer the Chiefs not make the playoffs because that's the respect I'm giving that team that's been to 5 Super Bowls and like conference championships over the 8. Look, what has it been, like 8 years or some shit, or 7? 5 Super Bowls, right? They won 3 and lost 2, and then the other 2 years, they lost 2 AFC championships, right, to the Bengals and the Patriots. So, like, of course, as a fan of an AFC team, you're like, no, I don't want them in there. Don't let them make the playoffs, because then they're a threat if they get in. That's respect you got to give them. It'd be the same thing with the Patriots back in, when Brady was there. Anyway, last game of the week, sorry. Chargers beat the Eagles 22-19 to move to 9-4. Eagles are 8-5. Eagles looking a little fraudulent right now. Hurts, 240, 0 TDs, 4 picks. He sacked once. Barkley has 122 yards in the TD. A.J. Brown has 100 yards receiving. He had a couple of drops. Hurts loses a fumble as well. I don't think all those picks were Hurts' fault and bouncing off hands and shit. I wanted the Eagles to win this game because that would have put the Chargers at 5 losses. Anyway, I said Hurts loses a fumble. They get 2.5 sacks from Hunt, a half sack from Bond, a sack and a half from Young, a sack and a half from Davis, 7 sacks. Jackson has a pick. Elliott is 4 or 5 from field goals with a long 54. He has his extra point. Apparently, Herbert was beat up too here. He didn't even play that well. He was sacked 7 times, 139 yards, a TD and a pick. He does rush for 66 yards. They run for 169 yards as a team. Vidal has 1 catch for 60 yards to lead the way. Hampton has a receiving touchdown. Herbert loses a fumble. Hand loses a fumble. They get a sack from Owe. They get picks from Hart, Hand, Jackson, Jefferson. And their kicker is 5 for 5 from field goals. Dicker with a long of 54. It's just extra point. Chargers good. On the one side, you're like, oh, finally. The Chiefs aren't going to win the AFC West after 10 years. Or 9 years, whatever the hell. Well, let's see. Denver won it in 15. That was the last time, right? 9 years. And they ain't done. This is how I am as a fan. I don't look at the Chiefs as like, oh, they're done. Because I know they're 6-7. Listen, they're not that great. Let's be honest, right? They're not playing good. And the thing is, if a team like that gets in the playoffs, that experience is so vital to a team. Especially if they're going against a Broncos in Denver or a Pats. Denver was the playoffs last year, but they got blown out. Still, they got there, but there's not a lot of experience there. Same thing with this Patriots team, right? That's not to say those teams can just beat the Chiefs in the playoffs, but I'd almost be like, yeah, the Chiefs are going to be favored in those games, Same thing if they had to go to, like, Pittsburgh. I would say Jacksonville, too. Like, if Jacksonville won their division, we'll just say the teams that are in first right now in the division to win. I could see them going to any one of those places and winning if they make the playoffs, just because of the experience. And the funny thing is, I could see them losing to all 4 of those teams. But, no. If you're an AFC West team fan, and it's not the Chiefs, you don't want the Chiefs in the playoffs. Have them not in there so they're not a threat. You got to give that respect to teams. I do think the AFC is a bit stronger than the NFC. Although right now, I'd almost say the best team in the league is probably the Rams. Because they are just, they have 3 losses, but they've been just destroying teams. They just look good, man. Denver, I'm just going to ramble here for a few. I think the Patriots look better than Denver. I don't think Denver looks good defensively. They have a great defense. Offensively, they look good from time to time. When, like, Peyton decides, like, hey, we're going to do something. I'm not gonna sit here and say Bo Nix is a bad quarterback, but I need him. He needs to just start taking over games. Like they play the Packers next week. Dial it in, Peyton. I want to see this guy throw for 3 TDs. He has it. He plays well from behind. But all their games are close, except one. Two. Now, this game was a 10-point game in the end. So I would say it was closer than it had to be. But they had it. But still, they had 2 complete blowouts, and that was the Bengals and the Cowboys. Other than that, every other game has been 8 points or less. The Raiders game was 7, but a field goal at the end as the time expires to cut it to 7. To get that money on the spread there. But yeah, the Rams are definitely the dominant team in the NFC. I feel the Eagles are starting to hurt. They'll probably still end up winning the division. The Bears, Packers, and Lions are all still there. Obviously, they're fighting for the division. And then I think the Panthers. I don't know who's in first. The Panthers or the Bucks are both 7-6, but I guess head-to-head matchups. I don't know who's in first there. And the AFC, like I'm not. Denver and the Patriots are 11-2, but I don't. I guess a Broncos, and I look at it differently. I might have been more like, yeah, fuck yeah, years ago with Denver, but I've seen. If you're a fan of a team long enough, I've said this. You're gonna see this all the time. I've seen Denver when they're incredible, lose that first playoff game. I've seen them when they're ripping it up during the regular season, fall apart, miss the playoffs. If they make the play, right, they're 11-2, they're not officially in. If they win this weekend, they're in. And I think if they lose and 3 other teams lose, I think it's the Titans, the Texans, Jags, and somebody else, Colts lose, Denver would get in. Say they get in, I'm not like, yeah, here we go, this is a dominant team. No, because win or lose, if they make the playoffs, win or lose, these games are going to realistically be close. But anyway, Week 14 recap. Thanks for